So imagine you spend, I don't know, like an hour carefully crafting the perfect post.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
Right. You edit every single word, you check the grammar, you finally hit send. And do you know what the average lifespan of that tweet actually is?
It is depressingly short.
It is just 12 minutes. I mean, 12 minutes and it's basically gone.
Welcome to your custom deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we're looking at a digital reality that affects, well, absolutely anyone trying to share an idea, build a brand, or just be heard online.
And honestly, it gets worse from there.
Yeah, it really does, because even if you've spent years building up an audience of, say, thousands of followers, only about 5% of them might actually see your latest post.
Which is just, the math is completely detached from our everyday expectations, you know?
Right, totally.
You put your thoughts out into the digital ether, assuming your audience is sitting there just waiting for them. But the statistical reality tells a completely different story. The vast majority of your own followers are living in a timeline where your content just doesn't even exist. It's wild. So today we're breaking down exactly why that happens and, more importantly, how to actually fix it. Our source material today is this really interesting March 30, 2026 article from the Circleboom blog. It's by Arif Akdogan, and it's titled, How to Get the Most Visibility and Responses on Twitter.
It's a great piece.
It is. And the mission of this deep dive today is to really deconstruct the exact mechanics of growth on X and unpack the specific data-backed strategies that turn that fleeting 12-minute blip into a sustained 24/7 engine for reach.
Sounds like a solid plan.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the core problem identified right away in the article is this massive blind spot that most users have.
Right, the hyperfocus issue.
Exactly. People focus entirely on writing a really good tweet, or they focus entirely on the distribution side, like just trying to get it seen. And the author argues that ignoring either one completely dooms the other.
Because the platform is fundamentally hostile to content that doesn't immediately perform. I mean, a tweet requires two distinct forms of oxygen to survive on the timeline.
Right. Visibility and responses.
Exactly. Visibility, meaning people actually having it rendered on their screens.
Yeah.
And responses, meaning people actively clicking, replying, or voting.
They're completely codependent. It's like, well, it's like throwing this incredible party, but whispering the address to like one single person.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, right. The party itself, the music, the food, the atmosphere, that's your response potential. You have a great setup. But the lack of visibility means the room stays entirely empty.
Nobody's there to enjoy the party.
Exactly. Nobody tells their friends to come over, and the night is over before it ever really begins.
What's fascinating here is that we often view this dynamic as a flaw in the system. We think it's unfair that a brilliantly written thought goes completely unnoticed just because, well, it didn't get lucky in the first few minutes.
We take it personally.
We do. But from the platform's perspective, this isn't a glitch at all. It is a highly efficient filtration system. I mean, the algorithm is processing millions of inputs every single second.
Yeah, it has to be brutal.
Right. It desperately needs early, immediate signals from users to decide if a piece of content is actually worth the server costs of pushing it out to a wider audience.
So it acts less like a public square and more like a ruthless nightclub bouncer.
Yeah, a digital bouncer.
The bouncer only lets a long line of people in if the first 3 people through the door immediately hit the dance floor. If those first 3 people just stand around checking their phones, meaning if your tweet doesn't get that early engagement, the bouncer drops the velvet rope.
The content will not spread.
Nope. And because it doesn't spread, the visibility stays locked down, which means no one else ever gets the chance to respond. It is a totally closed loop.
And that filtration mechanism is entirely neutral. It doesn't care about the inherent quality, truth, or like artistic merit of the thought. It cares exclusively about the behavioral reaction it generates in human beings.
It's all about the metrics.
Exactly. If you don't secure a tangible reaction in that initial 12-minute window, the system mathematically assumes the content is dead weight and it just buries it.
So if we have to impress that algorithm bouncer within such a tiny window of time, we really need to talk about what actually forces a human user to stop endlessly scrolling and type a reply.
Right, getting them to actually stop.
Yeah, the author breaks down the anatomy of what he calls a reply-worthy tweet, because people don't reply just because something is objectively good.
No, good isn't enough anymore.
Right. They reply to things that are relatable or that share a very clear, sharp opinion. They reply when a tweet asks a simple question or when it triggers an immediate sense of agreement or disagreement.
And importantly, it has to be short and easy to read.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
when you introduce complexity or like massive blocks of text, you increase the cognitive load required to process the information. And the higher the cognitive load,
The less likely they are to reply.
right, the lower the likelihood of a spontaneous reply.
Mm.
But the most crucial insight from the source here, the one that really challenges conventional writing wisdom, I think, is about this concept of completeness.
Oh, yeah, this part was wild.
The author states that if a tweet feels complete, with absolutely no room for input, people will simply scroll past it.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on that for a second.
Go for it.
Aren't we always taught to make our writing comprehensive and well-rounded? I mean, in school essays, in business emails,
Yeah.
you're supposed to anticipate questions and answer them up front. You build an airtight argument.
You do, yeah.
So why does leaving a thought slightly incomplete actually work better in this specific environment?
Well, if we look at the psychology outlined in the text, a complete tweet leaves the reader acting purely as a passive consumer.
Like they're just watching TV.
Right. Think about it. If you post a perfectly reasoned, beautifully structured paragraph that covers every single angle of a topic, addresses all counter-arguments, and leaves absolutely no loose ends.
There's nothing to add.
Exactly. The reader might agree with you. They might even think you're brilliant. But what is left for them to actually say? They might nod to themselves, but then they keep scrolling. An incomplete tweet, on the other hand, or a tweet with a very strong, specific angle, creates a psychological gap. It invites the reader to step in and become an active participant in the thought process.
So you're essentially leaving an empty chair at the table for them to sit in.
Oh, I like that. Yes.
Instead of giving a lecture from a podium, you're starting a sentence and implicitly asking them to finish it.
You are initiating a dialogue rather than broadcasting a monologue. And the source specifically highlights polls as a fantastic low-friction way to execute this.
Oh, polls are great.
They are, because a poll asks for a reaction and helps you instantly understand audience sentiment, but it does so without requiring the user to expend the energy of typing out a long response.
Just one click.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's a highly effective, easy entry point into participation that signals to the algorithm that people actually care.
But to even get them to vote or reply, the underlying ideas have to actually connect to the people you're talking to, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The article mentions that coming up with random ideas isn't the problem most creators have. The problem is generating ideas that align with what their specific audience actually cares about.
Yeah, relevance is key.
And the author introduces a tool called Circleboom's AI tweet generator to solve this. What caught my eye here is that this isn't just a generic chatbot spitting out like standard viral templates.
No, it's much smarter than that.
Right. It specifically generates content based on the interests of your existing followers. It actually learns from your account's history to ensure the output resonates with the people already in the room.
And that tailoring is vital. I mean, you can engineer the most conversation-starting, perfectly incomplete tweet possible. But if the underlying topic doesn't resonate with the people who see it first.
The bouncer drops the rope.
Exactly.
Right.
That 12-minute window will close without a single interaction. The AI isn't just writing words. It's matching topics to historical audience preferences.
Which brings up a pretty glaring logistical issue if you think about it.
Oh, like what?
Well, you could have the perfectly tailored AI-assisted tweet with the perfect empty chair for the reader, but what if you drop it on the timeline at 11:00 a.m. on a Tuesday, and your specific audience is mostly busy in meetings?
Ah, right, the timing problem.
Yeah, that first vital signal to the algorithm just never happens. So the conversation has to move from what you post to when you post it.
The launch pad is just as important as the rocket. Like we established, the algorithm is looking for that initial spike in engagement. And the source makes it really clear that guessing when your audience is online is just a losing strategy.
Because we're usually wrong.
We are. Our intuition about when people scroll is almost always wrong. You have to analyze follower activity based on hard data.
And the Circleboom tool actually looks at your specific audience's activity patterns, right? And it provides the exact time slots when they are active.
It does, yeah.
So it isn't just giving you a generic best time to post on X article that you pulled from a Google search. It's telling you exactly when your unique followers have their apps open and are actively scrolling.
Which is huge. Because timing isn't just a minor administrative task you handle at the tail end of the writing process. It is the primary catalyst for the entire algorithmic engine.
It's the spark.
Exactly. It is the literal difference between your tweet acting as a private diary entry that fades into the void and becoming a public conversation.
Right.
If you miss that timing, you miss the initial spike, and the clock runs out before the tweet even had a chance to breathe.
It's basically like opening weekend at the box
Yeah,
office.
that's a perfect analogy.
Right. Like, it doesn't matter if your movie is an absolute Oscar winner. If the theaters are empty on Friday night, it's getting pulled by Monday.
Yep. Nobody will ever see it.
And the best part is, you don't even need to be physically awake to hit that peak window. Like, if your audience is highly active at 3:00 a.m. your local time because they live in a different time zone.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah. You just use the tool to smart schedule your posts for those exact peak times. You are putting the content directly in their path when they are most susceptible to interacting with it.
You are removing the friction of chance. By aligning the content's delivery with the audience's biological and social habits, you guarantee that the empty chair you created is actually seen by someone awake enough to sit in it.
Okay, so let's play this out. You hit that peak window perfectly. You get that initial rush of engagement. The bouncer lets you in. The tweet goes wide.
Success.
Success, right. But the reality is, even a viral tweet eventually dies down. That 12-minute clock might be extended to a few hours or even a day, but it still eventually runs out.
It always does.
And you can't just physically write a brand new masterpiece every single hour of the day. So how do we keep the momentum going once the initial wave crashes?
Well, the author is adamant that treating tweets as one-time disposable posts is a massive strategic error. We have to remember that digital audiences are not a monolith sitting in a single auditorium together.
They're logging on all over the place.
Exactly. Different segments of your followers are online at completely different times of the day or even entirely different days of the week.
Which brings us to the art of the repost. Because reposting your own tweet essentially makes it new again for everyone who missed it the first time around.
Yes, exactly.
And the source mentions Circleboom has an auto-retweet feature that handles this entirely in the background, which is cool. You set it to repost after a few hours, then automatically unrepost it, and then repost it again later.
And the numbers on this are just staggering.
Oh, they are. The article states that giving your content this second life automation can quadruple your impressions and double your engagement. I mean, it basically forces the algorithm to prioritize your brand, turning a single post into a 24/7 engine.
Those metrics really demonstrate the inefficiency of posting just once. When you automate that cycle, you are extracting the maximum possible value from a single piece of well-crafted content.
Instead of just spinning your wheels.
Right, rather than constantly burning creative energy trying to generate new posts from scratch every day.
So what does this all mean for the user experience? Because I have to ask the obvious question here. Doesn't reposting your own content repeatedly feel incredibly spammy?
It's the first thing people worry about.
Because if I follow someone and keep seeing the exact same post from them every few hours, I'm going to get really annoyed. Doesn't this strategy come across as a bit arrogant?
It is the most common anxiety creators have. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look back at the opening statistic of this deep dive.
That 5% visibility.
Exactly. Only about 5% of your audience sees a post. When you repost, you are not spamming the 5% who saw it. You are finally delivering it to the 95% who didn't.
Wow.
You really have to detach from the feeling that everyone sees everything you do, because they don't.
That is a huge paradigm shift. You're maintaining visibility for the silent majority of your followers who just weren't online at 11 a.m. But what about someone who clicks on your actual profile page? Like, if they visit your profile and see the same tweet stacked 5 times in a row, it looks terrible.
But that is exactly where the specific cycle of reposting and then unreposting becomes absolutely crucial.
Oh, right, because it cleans it up.
Exactly. By having the software remove the previous repost before doing it again, you clean up your own profile timeline. It doesn't look like a wall of identical spam to anyone visiting your page directly.
That's brilliant.
It is. But you are still maximizing the utility of the tweet in the main algorithmic feed, where most people actually consume their content.
So you're maintaining a perfectly clean storefront while simultaneously handing out flyers on every single corner of the city.
That's a great way to think about it.
But honestly, if we zoom out and look at everything we've talked about, juggling an AI generator tailored to your audience, analyzing time zones, smart scheduling, and then managing continuous unrepost and repost cycles, I mean, that sounds like a massive headache.
Oh, it is, if you're doing it manually.
Right. If you're doing that manually across 5 different browser tabs, you're going to burn out in a week.
The friction of execution is exactly where most people abandon their strategy. Knowing what to do is completely different from having a sustainable way to actually do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the source spends considerable time explaining how to tie all these disparate tactics into one cohesive command center using Circleboom's X-Post Planner.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because bringing this into one workflow completely changes the game. It's like working in a professional kitchen versus running between 5 different restaurants to cook one meal.
Oh, definitely.
Because in this one dashboard, you have the AI writer, you can pull high-quality images directly from Unsplash or design them using a built-in Canva integration. But there's this specific feature mentioned, a font generator that lets you apply bold, italic, or underline formatting directly to your text.
That's actually a huge deal.
Why is that specific visual detail so important? Like, it seems minor.
Because we need to understand the psychology of the scroll. When users are scrolling through a feed at light speed, their brains are basically engaged in rapid pattern matching.
Just scanning for something interesting.
Right. The timeline is an endless sea of uniform, standard text. The brain habituates to that pattern and starts just skipping over words. But when you apply a bold font or an italicized word to a key phrase,
It jumps out at you.
exactly, it acts as an immediate visual interrupt. It breaks the established pattern, which triggers a micropause in the brain's processing. And that micropause is all you need to get them to actually read the first line of your tweet instead of swiping right past it.
It's a visual speed bump on a digital highway.
Precisely.
And speaking of efficiency, the text also heavily emphasizes cross-posting. The tool lets you automatically send that same perfectly crafted, visually interrupted content out to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Bluesky, and Threads, like all at once.
Which saves a ton of time.
It really does. But there is a technical detail in the text regarding how all of this connects to the platform that I want to unpack, because the author makes a really big point about API integrity.
Oh, yes. This is crucial.
They note that Circleboom uses the official X Enterprise API, and they don't just scrape data. Why does that back-end plumbing actually matter to the everyday user?
It is a critical distinction for both performance and reliability. Web scraping is essentially sending an automated robot program to look at the visual layout of a website and just copy the text.
Okay, it sounds fragile.
It's incredibly fragile. If the platform changes a single line of code in its layout, like literally moving a button 2 pixels to the left, the scraper goes blind, it breaks, and all your scheduled posts fail.
Wow. So it's like having someone look through the window of a restaurant from the street to guess how many tables are open, and if someone just pulls the blinds down, your entire system shuts down.
A perfect analogy, yes.
Yeah.
By using the official Enterprise API instead, the tool has a direct VIP data pipeline straight into X's backend servers. It speaks the raw language of the data.
So no guessing involved.
None. It's reliable, it explicitly complies with the platform's terms of service, and it has access to accurate, real-time metrics. The author actually notes that this direct connection avoids the UI lag you sometimes see on the X interface itself.
Which is super annoying.
Right. So it ensures your scheduling and analytics are acting on instantaneous information.
Okay, so we have the system built. The visuals are dialed in to stop the scroll, the data pipeline is solid, the AI is perfectly tailored, but the author closes out with a few final, vital microtactics.
The human elements.
Exactly. These are the human elements that the software absolutely cannot do for you. First, use scroll stopping hooks. The first line decides everything.
If that first sentence doesn't catch them, all the AI and scheduling in the world won't save the post.
Exactly. Second, reply to your own tweets. You can add context, share examples, or put follow-up thoughts in the replies. This organically increases the total time a user spends looking at your content, which, the algorithm heavily rewards.
Which leads to the final and perhaps most critical microtactic.
Oh, yeah.
The author explicitly warns, never post and leave. This is the single most common pitfall when people start using automation tools.
They just get lazy.
Right. They treat scheduling as a way to completely disengage from the platform. They schedule their brilliant tweet for their audience's peak time, and then they log off to go watch a movie.
And that kills it.
It does. The platform rewards active presence just as much as it rewards good content. If you aren't there to reply to the first few people who engage with your post, you halt the momentum completely.
Because when someone takes the time to sit in that empty chair you left for them, and you aren't there to acknowledge it, they just won't bother engaging the next time.
Exactly. You have to stay active right after that post goes live to keep the algorithm feeding the loop.
That makes total sense. So to bring this all together for you, Surviving and growing on X is not about getting lucky with a random viral thought. It is about building a structured system around a very specific holy trinity of success.
Which is,
One, you need a tweet that leaves room for people to actually engage and participate, visually designed to stop the scroll. Two, that tweet must be launched at the exact moment your specific audience is online to catch that early engagement window.
and 3.
Three, you have to give that tweet multiple chances at life through automated reposting cycles. If you combine those three elements, you aren't just throwing words into the void anymore. You are operating a machine designed for reach.
It's a completely different way to approach social media.
It really is. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. But before we go, there is a much larger implication to all of this that we really need to consider.
Yeah, as we look at all these interlocking strategies, the tools, the timing, the careful psychological formatting, it raises a question that goes slightly beyond the text itself.
What's that?
Well, if the algorithm strictly demands that we leave our thoughts incomplete to invite conversation, and if it forces us to constantly recycle our own past statements just to be seen by our own followers, how does this digital environment fundamentally alter the way we formulate our own beliefs?
Are we truly optimizing our communication for clarity and understanding? Or are we just optimizing our personalities to feed the algorithm?